Side Part. It's like a book club with your best friend, but make it a podcast. Welcome back, crawlers, to another episode of Side Part. I'm Nikki, your bookish bestie, and today we are entering the fourth floor of the dungeon, the Iron Tangle, in the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook by Matt Dinniman. Is it a maze? A series of railways that looks like a giant plate of noodles? Is it just one big puzzle? The answer is yes. It's all of the above. Remember, you're reading along with me. I have only read the first half of this book, so all of my thoughts, theories, reactions are just based solely on book 1, book 2, and the first 18 chapters of this book. When I started the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, I had absolutely no clue what I was signing up for. I thought I'd simply just read the first book and then I would just move on to something else. I was so wrong. This series has become a core part of not only my personality, but I just will not stop talking about it, and I will not stop trying to convince everyone I know to read it. Obviously, you can go in blind and have a great time. You don't have to do any research beforehand. But I have compiled a list of 3 things I wish I would have known before reading Dungeon Crawler Carl. Number 1, Matt Dinniman is a pantser. If you're not in the bookish space, that sounds like a funny phrase, but essentially all it means is, as an author, he kind of flies by the seat of his pants. There tends to be 2 types of authors. So there's pantsers and there's plotters. And obviously you can be a blend of the 2. We're never just all or nothing. But he truly is someone who likes to write himself into a corner, and he likes to write 500 death scenes of a certain character to see how things would play out. And I think that's part of the reason his books feel, one, chaotic, but also you feel like there's truly no other direction that these characters could go. All of these things that I'm saying, I'm taking from TikTok videos that I watched at 2 a.m. because someone who's very nice on my TikTok sent me this video of him talking in an interview about his writing style, and then I went on this deep dive at 2 a.m. and nonetheless, I was just so mesmerized by the way his brain works and the way he's created this entire fandom in this series, and it all just exists up in his brain, and he's just going wherever the vibes take him. And I think there's something really magical about that. But something that I had to get used to was that this doesn't necessarily follow like a writing formula. I am very much a fantasy reader first and foremost. And if you've read fantasy, yes, there's plot twists. Yes, there's things that are unexpected. But for the most part, there's tropes and themes and certain plot devices that you kind of pick up on it right away. And you're like, oh, I know this is where it's going. This series does not feel like that. It is so chaotic and it doesn't fit neatly into any box. But there's something so liberating and refreshing about it because you truly can't predict what's coming next ever. And I kind of wish I would have known that beforehand, so I wasn't looking so deep into things, because I think naturally as a fantasy reader, you're always looking for like hidden Easter eggs, and you're kind of expecting the author to be leading you down a certain path, and the author knows where things are going to be headed by book 5, and that's not necessarily the case with these books. I remember watching this video where he was talking about how he pitched the title for book 8, A Parade of Horribles, without ever knowing what the parade was, how it was going to fit in the book. But I think that's what makes his books feel so fun and different and refreshing, is that you're just like along for the ride with him. And I think that's also why I love these books so much, is they just feel so different. They really, truly do. To be fair, this is my first time reading a lit RPG. I have never read this genre before, so also take that into consideration as well. Number 2, the audio is just top tier and 100% worth purchasing. It is worth saying I am not an audio person. I genuinely just don't think that I'm someone who enjoys listening to books. I really am a fast reader, and I feel like I absorb things better when I actually physically use my eyes to read the books. But this audio is just so immersive, and it's done so well. And fun fact, the audio is done by one person, but you could have convinced me differently. I thought it was a graphic audio. I thought it was a bunch of different voice actors coming in and doing this book. And then I, again, saw a TikTok of the person who actually does the audio, and he is just phenomenal. And he's so good at voice acting. And if you're someone who has listened to audiobooks before and cringed when a male audiobook narrator is doing a female voice, you don't feel like that at all. Like, he has just this insane vocal range and does these really, really amazing impressions of these characters. So 10 out of 10, recommend just listening to the audio. It makes the story come alive, and it really sealed the deal for me with this series and my love for the series as a whole. And last, number 3, I think I love the fandom just as much, if not more, than I love the books. Trust me when I say this, everyone in the fandom wants everyone else who hasn't read these books to read these books. And they will not be shy. If you bring up these books, they will yap. They're down to yap. And I think that's one of my favorite things about this fandom is if you post about a Dungeon Crawler Carl book, there will always be people there waiting to just talk about it. Always. If I knew I was going to be part of this club where everyone is actually like super nice and truly just there for the love of these books, I would have read them so much sooner. It's almost like this little friend group that you become part of because you're all connected by this really fun, chaotic little series. And I love it so, so much. I guess my question for you is, if you've read Dungeon Crawler Carl, what do you wish people would know, or what do you think they should know before diving into this series? I feel like I stumbled into this club by accident, but I'm just really, really glad that I'm here. Oh, actually, I feel like that's kind of a lie. I am actually struggling right now. I'm very unhappy. I'm very confused because I am in the thick of the Iron Tangle right now. I feel like the rails are completely coming off in book 3. See what I did there? I might try to incorporate some train metaphors, so I apologize in advance. Anyway, regroup. I've decided to break up the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook into 2 parts. So I'm going to do the first half-ish, chapters 1 through 18 in this episode, and then we're going to finish it up in the next episode next week. So today we are talking about chapters, again, 1 through 18. There will be spoilers for books 1, books 2, and chapters 1 through 18 through this book. Now, I will say we will primarily just be focusing on this book. And I hope if you are reading this book, it is because you've also read books 1 and 2. But nonetheless, I just thought I should do a disclaimer. Also, friendly reminder, these are very adult books with very adult humor and some very dark scenes. I will do my best to keep the language PG-13 for any listening ears, but please just be mindful of your audience at home. Something I was pretty happy about is we got some answers, I guess we kind of got some answers to the questions I had looming at the end of the second book. So number 1, what does Hecla want with Donut? I don't know if we fully have narrowed this down yet, but we do know that Hecla really likes Donut. And she's not the biggest fan of Carl. I mean, she thinks Carl's very reckless. And I would argue both Carl and Donut are reckless. But nonetheless, I think the way Carl is being displayed by the dungeon, or the producers in the dungeon, is leading him to look very reckless and slightly unhinged. But I do think someone commented on my YouTube video that Hecla wants Donut because of the manager benefit. And I think that's the theory I'm starting to lean towards here, because I think Hecla notices the benefit of having Mordecai on their team, on their, I don't know, in their arsenal of tools. And so if I had a wager, I don't know if it's so much that she likes Donut, but that she likes that Donut has this added benefit. And I think it doesn't hurt that she's also female. Another question that I had was, is the AI working against Boren? And I think at the start of this book, we become quickly aware that the AI has beef with Boren. 100%. I mean, the loot it was giving out to Carl with the quiet slippers, the bang bro, I mean, just killer loot. And then also like the personal space upgrades that you knew was going to cause Boren a fortune. Sorry. I'll talk about the personal spaces next, but my goodness, I was so stoked with the loot at the start of this book. Donut also got some sweet loot. I mean, including a new tiara, which I don't think it really necessarily solves the concerns I had at the second book about how her tiara being taken off her head was going to impact the rest of their group. I think there might still be some things we need to watch out for with that. But I'm glad the main character has her crown back, as she should. Mordecai said something important, and I'm just going to read it word for word because I think it's really relevant here. But he said, all of these upgrades are really expensive. So in addition to the loss of income from the acquisitions, they get a small cut of all dungeon purchases. It's a tradition for your sponsor to make you buy your own safe space, but to then buy you some upgrades in your first loot box. By preempting the sponsors, the AI is giving you a leg up and is saving your future sponsors a lot of money. I mean a lot. Thus freeing them up to give you better stuff. So it's almost as if the AI is trying to set the crawlers up, specifically like Carl and Donut, to help them have the most advantage that they can have in this dungeon. But again, I'm starting to question like how sentient like the AI is, and I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit here because I'm not like a huge fan of the AI. I've mentioned in previous episodes it kind of gives me the ick, but I feel like the AI is growing on me more and more. So I don't know. I'm actually having some cognitive dissonance about that, if I'm being honest. But not only does this confirm my first suspicion that the AI is not happy with Boren because it went against the choices that they made in the game, but the personal space upgrades are just so sweet. They're so cool. I mean, Carl and Donut, not only do they get to rest and they kind of have a place where it's not home, but at least they can make it home, right? And I don't know if anyone else got these vibes, but when Carl and Donut and Katya were kind of laying out the layout for their personal space, and they're in this big warehouse and they had like this open plot to kind of plop these rooms, I felt like I was playing Sims. And I don't know if you were a fellow Sims player. I think it's kind of a canon event. I think we all played Sims at one point, but anyway, I digress. I don't know why, but I just loved that scene so much. And I think one of the things I'm most excited for is the personal space upgrades, like seeing what they get, what they buy, what they purchase, what they're gifted. Like, it's something so small and it's not super important to the overall plot, but I feel like I'm getting to like deck out this personal space, and like I'm like, ooh, what should we upgrade next? I feel like I'm actually playing this video game. I'm in this game. I'm in this dungeon. I don't know what Matt Dinniman has done, but it's so immersive and I'm so invested in this little corner of the story. I'm so invested. I think we need to talk about Katya for a moment. I mean, do we trust her? Like, do we? She seems kind. She's very quiet, but she's obviously not a fan favorite. So I feel like Matt is writing her in a way where she comes off like a little bit more, she doesn't come off confident and she's not going to take risks. And I think Carl genuinely seems to like her, but I can't decide if I do. I want to. Wait, do I? Yeah, I do. I want to like her. But unfortunately, I just don't know if I'm there. I don't. I think Donut also likes her, but I think she is intentionally written this way. I should say that. But I'm only halfway through the book, and I think the thing that I'm struggling with Katya especially is that she has this fierce loyalty for Hekla. And she's constantly deferring to Hekla. She didn't want to use anything that could possibly be to the benefit of Hekla. And she's constantly checking with her through chat. She's like, and Carl mentioned this a couple times. And especially when she saw like the PvP, the player versus player coupon that Donut received, she automatically thought Donut was going to betray her and Carl. And okay, that whole scene. So obviously, to backtrack, Donut gets this PvP coupon after unaliving somebody in the Desperado Club, and the coupon essentially was saying that she would get a benefit if she betrayed Carl and took him out of the game. Well, my thing is, I'm wondering if Katya was truly concerned about that, or if it was more so with these coupons, I should say, Katya knows that if Donut received one for Carl, she also received one for her because she's currently part of their party. But my question is, like, just based on Donut's character, does Katya actually think Donut would do anything with that? Why didn't she even try to have a conversation with her? And then is she just trying to drive a wedge between Donut and Carl? And then what would the reasoning be for that? Would it be so then Donut, it would be a little bit easier to like kind of bring her over to Hekla's party? And I just feel like I don't trust Hekla with her intentions, at least not right now. And by de facto, it makes me just not trust Katya, unfortunately. So speaking of like the personal space and the upgrades, I was so excited that Mordecai got his own space. But then I'm also like really sad that he got taken out of like the picture for a good portion of these chapters. I'm really missing him and his insight and just how he just kind of cuts through everything. I don't really love how he showed up in this book being like this frog creature. Is it a toad or frog? I mean, I'm not sure if it matters right now, but I just feel like he's such an intentional character and he truly knows so much about the dungeon. Now, obviously he's very, very triggered by Chaco, but he's so hyper aware of the rules and he knows the consequences and the limitations of the safe room. Why did he do that? Was it just a pure bout of emotional rage? Fair. But my question is, did he want to get sent away for some reason? Was there a benefit for that? There more to meets the eye about that little scene there. But we did learn something important for Chaco's little weird, I don't know, interruption in the story. We did learn that Odette was Mordecai's manager. I don't know if that was confirmed until like the interaction with Chaco. And then also after the scene with Chaco, we had the first like kind of fun scene of like Carl breaking the wall with his fans. I know he like looks up and he makes some comment about how well played. That was a good move, you guys. And obviously, I think internally we know like he's just trying to get the fans to enjoy the show so he can make more money and go further in the dungeon. And we know he's just so angry on the inside and like he just wants to take it all down. But I just really think Carl is just evolving so much and he's truly playing the game. And I really liked him before, but this confident, brazen guy that he's becoming, and I mean, he's just emerging into something that's pretty darn formidable, and I'm here for it. I have to admit, though, I'm kind of missing the talk shows in the first half of this book. We are so thick in the Iron Tangle. I didn't realize that the show interruptions were really adding like this breath of fresh air, this moment that you got to relax. I almost feel like I'm really tired. Like I did the work for these first 18 chapters. The shows just serve as a nice break from the dungeon, but they're still obviously rife with drama. There's a lot happening. They are not free from chaos, that's for sure. But I like the nice reality TV break from the dungeon grind every now and then. I could honestly really use a reprieve right now, if I'm being honest. I'm just thinking of that one meme. It's been 84 years. Anyway, one of my favorite just scenes in this book is when he reads the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook for the first time and realizes what it is and what he's received and how it's just going to fuel his endeavor in just taking it all down and undermining just the Bourne Corporation or even, I mean, the entire syndicate, right? I don't know how far this goes yet. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my brain around the entire hierarchy of the dungeon and the government and just everything. I don't even know where you would start in taking it down. I don't even know what it is. I know who runs the dungeon. I know who the government is, but like, how far does this go? Anyway, I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. I just wish his savior complex didn't get in his way all the time. In the first half of this book, Carl is constantly warring with the need to save and inform everyone, every person in the dungeon. And like, that's to assume that like everyone in the dungeon has good intentions. I don't know if they do. And while also realizing this dungeon is not necessarily designed to be a team sport. Like obviously he has his own little team squad, whatever. Fine. He's losing precious time just chatting with people in his DMs especially with questions that don't really need to be answered. And even though Mordecai was absent for a good portion of these chapters, Carl can still hear him just like cautioning against this. And and I feel like Mordecai in a way is kind of becoming the voice of his conscience. And in his mind, he was just like, this isn't the time. Like, we're not here to just tiptoe around people's feelings. We're here to survive a dungeon. And valid. So it's like he has this really nuanced character where he cares, but he's also very straightforward. And he's kind of ruthless when he needs to be, which I actually appreciate him as a character. I think that's what I love so much about not only him, but like all of these characters, is they have so much depth. And they're not always predictable in how they're going to respond. They're very dynamic. And I think that's also what is keeping me hooked on these books, is that I never quite know how any of them are going to respond or what they're going to do next. And it just makes you want to keep going. And it's not just like the main characters in the book. It's also the other crawlers, the NPCs. They all kind of have these really dynamic personalities, even if they're only in there for a chapter. And you feel for them. I think Brandon was not in that many chapters in the last two books, but, Carl had been messaging with him back and forth. And then when Carl received the message from a deceased crawler, he has a new folder open up in his DMs, and it says messages from deceased crawlers. And the name was Brandon. I actually cried reading the message. It just gutted me. And I swear, Matt Dinniman has this ability to create these super dynamic and rich characters with immense depth. And they're just hanging out in the periphery. Like, does this guy have any business being this interesting and me feeling this much for him? I mean, not necessarily, but yet here I am tearing up over a fictional character that was not a big part of the last two books. Speaking of side characters, I also loved the transition of Mrs. McGibbons, or Elle. I mean, first of all, the Frostmaiden race is so cool. But I kind of personally miss the old Mrs. McGibbons a little bit. I wish she changed drastically. I almost feel like there's like Mrs. McGibbons, and obviously now there's Elle. I love both of them separately. I'm having a hard time aligning the two. Like, they feel like vastly different characters, but I really like her now. And she adds a nice amount of spice to the story. I'm also really starting to like Amani more. I don't feel like she was a character that initially had a lot to her, but as this book continues, I'm continually just liking her more and more and more. I actually think we need to start a new segment for my favorite NPC of the week. And I feel like this week, if I had to pick one NPC, or I guess these are two separate NPCs, but they go together, it would be, I don't know how to say this, Bamo and the Sledge. I didn't listen to the audio for this book, so please don't come at me for my pronunciation. Maybe it's Bomo. That's okay. Whatever. Okay. So they weren't the best bodyguards initially, but Carl insisted that they stay on their protection detail, which I do think was a smart move. Obviously, the Desperado Club was willing to give them different protection, but I think Carl wanting them to stick around because, one, out of fear that if he got rid of them and they got punished, that their other friends or comrades at the Desperado Club would not treat Donut and Carl as kindly. But watching them kind of take this, protection detail really seriously after Donut was injured and purchasing a protection spell so they could enhance their ability to protect them, I'm just really liking them as NPCs. And I think it further affirms that also these NPCs aren't really true NPCs. I mean, obviously we know that at this point. We're in book 3, but like, these characters are programmed, to have all these memories. But I think before that, we're realizing that they're still at their core who they are, right? They might have these implanted memories, but they make these choices that are very intentional in the dungeon and aren't always part of this pre-programmed script. And the fact that he went out of his way to purchase a protection spell to better support Donut and Carl in the Desperado Club, I don't know why, I just found that so endearing. I know we need to talk about the Iron Tangle, but I don't even know where to start. If I'm being a little bit honest, it's really stressful. It's really confusing. I intentionally didn't take notes because in the beginning of this book, Matt Dinniman told us not to do that. He told us not to try to figure it out. We're supposed to feel confused. And so I listened. I said, it was almost like a teacher just telling you not to do the homework assignment, take the night off. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So here are my very limited comments on the Iron Tangle. One, I think it's completely BA that Carl stole the Nightmare Express. Pretty awesome. He stole a train. I think it's pretty messed up that a crawler is derailing trains. What's up with that? And lastly, I just kind of want to move to another floor because this Iron Tangle is really, really stressing me out, okay? So that is my very, very limited commentary on the Iron Tangle. I know I will have more to say by the end of this book, but right now I am confused and I'm stressed. I'm stressed. At the end of the... okay. At the end of these chapters, though, we kind of get this really cool I don't know, cool is not the right word. We do get this meta moment, and Carl names it as such, where the Boron Corporation is not only the evil corporation to, like, the crawlers and to Carl, but it's also living up to the rep as a bad corporation for the NPCs in the game that they are employing, which is pretty wild, right? So we have that moment with Madison where obviously, you know, they get run out of the train yard thing. Words are escaping me right now. I apologize. But essentially, Madison comes on, they save her. She goes on the Nightmare Express with them. He goes to drop her off at her stop where her home's supposed to be, and it's desolate. There's cobwebs, abandoned buildings, the whole 9 yards. And the veil falls, right? And she's just like, well, what did you do, Carl? And it's like, well, no, Carl didn't do anything. It's just the Boron implanting these memories and forcing these NPCs, these humans and other creatures, to live these lives that are really actually non-existent. Like, Carl makes mention that there could be real homes and real families in this level, but yet there isn't. And they didn't even put the time and effort into doing that. And so it's like there's all these layers of how horrible the Boron Corporation truly is. I've started doing this at the end of each episode, and I think I'm going to continue it. And it's honorable mentions of things that didn't really fit anywhere else, but I feel like I just need to note, okay? First things first, I love the moment between Firebrandy and Donut when they're kind of talking about how they're moms and having that connection over their mommy eras. I really, really love that. I also thought it was really funny how Carl hates the metric system, and even though he's in a dungeon and it doesn't really matter, he's still trying to convert from centimeters to inches and from the metric system to the standard system. In the midst of everything, I just thought it was such like a random detail that I just thought was hilarious, and it just really stood out for me. Anyway, I also thought the process/scene with Donut trying to ride in Mongo's saddle was just not only hilarious, but it just it was like kind of like a cool, fun image, and I just can't get out of my head. Having a cat just ride on a Velociraptor's back is just too funny not to mention. Something that I think is important that I don't know where else this fits. I don't think me picking up on the Beanie Baby thing in the last book was by happenstance. I think this is going to be important. When Carl was sorting his inventory, he noticed that the Beanie Baby with the tags, I'm going to mention that again, was one of his, or actually was his only unique item. And I was like, that's important. These are not going away. They were just a fun little factoid in the last book. Like, they are going to serve a purpose potentially. Another thing that I love was that Carl is a huge book nerd and he loves to read and he knows a ton about authors and just different books. And I don't know, I'm just loving that as becoming part of his personality, and he's not losing that piece of himself and that kind of piece of his humanity in the dungeon. I really love that. The last honorable mention that I will talk about is the element of found family. I love that Carl and Donut and I guess Katya now too, and Mordecai are kind of, you know, making this little family. Oh my gosh, how did I forget Mongo? And Mongo are kind of creating this little family system in this really chaotic dungeon, and they have a house now, and I don't know why that feels so wholesome, even though it's in direct contrast to how this book feels at the moment. I really, really loved that. Are you ready to keep crawling? Because we're going to be finishing up book 3, the Dungeon Anarchist Cookbook, next week. Drop any questions or comments you have that you'd like me to respond to in next week's episode down in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you get alerted when there's new episodes. As always, thank you for crawling with me today. Have a great day, guys. Bye.